Order the City of Saugatuck City Council meeting for October 14th, 2025. You join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amy, will you call the roll?
Anderson,
Here.
Clark. Dean. Gardner.
Here.
Muncy.
Here.
Pearson.
Here.
Stanton.
So Lauren is running a little bit late. She will be here, but we need a motion to excuse Mr. Dean's absence.
So moved. Move that we, that Mr. Dean's absent be approved.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
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 One moment, Mayor, if I apologize for interrupting us. Our attorney who was on Zoom said that we've got no audio,
Oh.
so
I can hear, but
you can hear now, so.
yeah.
Jake, can you hear us now?
Nope. He's muted, but I don't think that should affect it.
Jake, can you hear us at all?
His mic is off.
Uh-huh.
Would you mind asking Kathy or Kimberly possibly?
Yeah.
I can hear fine.
Mayor North, can you hear us okay? Oh, looks like she's connecting too.
Austin, Kimberly, can you two hear us?
I think that's probably.
Yeah,
why-
I can hear you.
Austin can hear us, so
Yeah, this is Austin. I can hear you.
thank you.
Can anyone besides Austin hear us if Eric or Kimberly or Kathy can let us know if they can hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, all right. So Mr. Woody said he's gonna log back in and see if that helps his issue, so.
All right.
Sure, could be, nope.
So proceed.
Yep.
Okay. Mayor's comments. What a great evening for the Flower World celebration. The art and the artist were terrific. It was great to meet him and the awesome turnout. Just a great community collaboration to make it happen between, the SCA, the CVB and the artists and everybody who showed up. So hats off. This is a great time of year. It's nice to see the shoulder season. It's early shoulder season, but to see it so successful. So another great weekend in Saugatuck. Ryan, your report?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. Just a few highlights for you. One being the construction of the new restroom at Mount Baldhead. The report that we received last Friday indicated that the plumbing underground inspection passed, which is good, and the floor has now been poured. And the road's been patched where they had to make the water connection. So essentially from here, we're kind of starting that masonry work. So you'll start to see those masonry walls going up, and that work will be ongoing for the next 2 to 3 weeks. So good progress. Things seem to be on track and progressing well. Again, substantial completion is planned by the end of November into early December. And final kind of punch list items will take place in the spring.
Yeah. I hope that I don't go backwards.
Just a moment, if that's
Yeah,
all right.
I think
Mayor.
that's
Just a-
wise.
Yeah, so that.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Think we can continue.
All right.
Thanks for joining us.
So excited to see the restroom project progressing well and without any issues at this point. Wanted to kind of touch on the new state budget. I know there was a lot of media attention around whether or not the state legislature was going to get a budget done. And one of the key pieces that was really that a lot of local municipalities are really keeping an eye on was the road funding piece, and whether or not we were going to see a potential increase in road funding. A roads deal has been talked about for years, but not been accomplished. And so the state legislature did arrive at a compromise road funding deal that will add more dollars into our budget for roads, which is promising. Essentially, the net result for us for our current fiscal year that we're in for roads is going to be an additional $64,900 from the state and road funding, which is about 33.4% more than what the state was giving us in their Act 51 share with the city. And so that's promising. That number in year 3 through 5 of the road funding plan will see us essentially with a 54% increase over our fiscal year 24 funding. So very promising on the road front to see some extra road dollars coming from the state and assisting us with what we all know is very much a need, right? Fixing and repairing roads. I think Councilmember Muncy will probably appreciate I made a note about the fact that there was also some pretty substantial increases in transit funding. I know that's been a concern for a lot of local transit authorities, our interurban in particular. But there was some dollars actually put in to the budget on that, and I'll let him kind of evaluate how that impacts interurban operations long term. But I thought it was certainly worth noting is that kind of a key piece of our puzzle here in the city as well. On the hold on to it. The AT&T project, I made a report to you back in earlier this summer that AT&T had kind of come back. If you recall, they were kind of holding off on finalizing the agreement because they still didn't have their FCC approvals as they worked through the travel coordination process. They're still working through that process. They've had a recent meeting and are working on kind of some responses. So that process still isn't complete. They still don't have those final approvals, but they've come back essentially indicating that they'd like to finalize the agreement. There was, as you may recall, back in January of 24, a request from the city council to say, hey, is there a one-time lump sum that you're willing to provide up front to kind of help us with some costs that we have at Bald Head? They've come back with that amount of money in the agreement and are looking to finalize that. So they're working on the final exhibits. Our legal will take one, final pass through, and then we anticipate returning to the city council for your review of that.
Quick question on that. Thank you for the update. Welcome, everybody. AT&T is still awaiting final approval from the Federal Communications Commission to even do the deal, right? So it might be premature for the city to even consider finalizing a deal when they're still waiting for approval from the feds on this. And I think what's going on is that the feds are looking at the comments that came back from the State Historic Preservation Office and the tribes, which we were given information, I think, last fall about what they were considering. So this is not a done deal. The federal government may come back and say, you can't do this. I'm reluctant to pull a trigger on any deal until they get that approval.
Yeah, and I think we'll revisit those terms with everybody, again, at a workshop meeting to we had some changes in council members since it was last approved. And I think it's best that, the current council at least reviews the terms that are in that agreement that, essentially by signing the agreement, it doesn't mean that they necessarily have their approval. There's still some provisions that indicate that, them starting to pay lease payments and those sorts of things really doesn't start until they get their final approvals and have a project and they have a certain time frame built into the agreement. And then we have there's certain ability to extend the agreement, depending on how those approvals are going. So all that's kind of baked in, but we definitely, defer to the council and your comfort level and whether or not you want to approve an agreement or not, assuming, it's ready.
Thank you.
And then the last piece, I know it's been a few workshops since I was asked a question about, there's a homeless individual that's been staying at Wicks Park. At the time that council kind of, discussed briefly, there wasn't an interest in, at least at that time, putting it on a workshop agenda. I talked with one of his caseworkers today to kind of get an update on where things stand and any progress on finding, more permanent housing. The Supportive Services for Veterans Family Services Coordinator indicated that he's having difficulty reaching this individual in the last couple of weeks because this individual's phone was reportedly stolen. So there's a resident of the community who's trying to help this individual get a new phone, which is kind of that person, but that's obviously kind of hindered, some communications. And so I've shared that individual's contact information with the caseworker to try to keep some communication flowing. The caseworker indicated that they have provided some resources to this individual that they would recommend that they, check out and engage in. And as a reminder, this individual is a resident of our community, lost housing in our community, is a local veteran, really wants to stay in the community. I think that's been a piece that's been a little bit of a barrier that he's really hoping to stay here, wants to find housing here, but there's very limited resources here and availability here. And so that's something that his caseworker, I think, has discussed with him. It sounds like there's kind of a referral that's pending to Old Mill Apartments to apply there and see what availability they may or may not have. But at this point, that's kind of where that particular situation stands. And I, again, defer to the council if you want to take up some further discussion related to, park rules and those sorts of things, not necessarily the status of being homeless, but, conduct and parks and what your expectation is for park rules and that sort of thing. We stand ready to have that conversation when and if you're ready on that. So that's all I have.
First.
I've contacted 4 different groups: the Allegan County Veterans Senior Services, the Ottawa County Veterans Senior Services, the Allegan Homeless Solutions, which used to be On Point, as well as the Volunteers of America, Michigan, and that's where the caseworker is, Brandon.
Mhm.
And I visited with the director today, and in essence, the situation that we have is there's not a lot of housing in this area, and this is where he wants to stay. And at this point, we have no way of us, as a city, to make any movements. And so I did also check with the VA in Battle Creek because they actually have a homeless line and they will take referrals from either a separate party like us or from him, or they'll send out
Can we not talk, please? It's hard to hear when you're talking. Thank you.
and then, or they'll send out a caseworker. But I think the situation is we're caught in just a predicament where we don't have any way at this point to make any decisions. And so, yes, I think we need to have a workshop, come up with some options that the city can do. The volunteer from Volunteers of America gave me some ideas of the other cities and what they're doing with that and how that's helped get people to find housing, even though it's not the exact housing that they want.
Sure.
Chris, I absolutely agree. It certainly is worth a discussion. That way we have a protocol and, some ideas on how we can help those folks. The gentleman in question is a very nice guy. He actually befriended my mom when she was alive and living here. But I will say the last couple nights, I've taken a stroll to the park and also checked under the gazebo. And I have not seen him there the last few nights. So,
He was there today.
pardon?
He was there today.
Why don't we plan on scheduling a workshop and we can, I think, Chris, what you suggested is great. And thank you for the information you gathered. Okay. Anything else, Ryan?
Nope.
Okay, we will move on then to any agenda changes. I know Ryan emailed us all earlier this afternoon about adding a closed session to the agenda and there's a motion in his email if anyone wishes to make that.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we go into, I move that we had changed the agenda to going into a closed session under. You wanted it.
It's
Under
MCL.
16, under correspondence.
It will be.
Oh, it becomes item number 16 and then the numbers move on down from that.
Yes.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote.
Anderson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Stan.
Yes.
Motion carries. So that will be the new 16. Anything else to add or delete from the agenda? All right, that will take us to, we don't have a guest speaker. Public comments on agenda items only. So anyone in the audience who wishes to speak can come to the podium, give us your name, and you'll have up to 3 minutes speaking to something that's on the agenda. There'll be another public comment session later for any public comments about anything at all. So any public comments about agenda items in the room? Anyone on Zoom? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
Here. To make a motion to pass the consent agenda as listed in our October 14th, 2025 meeting agenda.
I'll second that.
Any questions or discussion before we vote?
I'm excited to see the artsy bike rack. I think that's a neat idea, and thank you to the CVB for bringing a little bit more art to our town.
CVV's on fire, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, this is also a roll call vote.
Anderson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Stan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Takes us to staff reports. We've heard from Ryan. Any questions or discussion about the treasurer's report? Clerk's report? Planning and zoning?
I can just highlight Mayor and Grayson's report. He's really hit the ground running. I hope you can see that from this is his first month report in September and all that, he's been able to accomplish and diving in and meeting folks and getting up to speed. So I really appreciate his hard.
Yeah, it's great to have him on board. DPW questions there?
Maybe a couple highlights, Mayor, on this one too, if I can. Received word that this weekend, the street light that you all approved removing on Spear Street has been removed. They're much back and forth with consumers and working with our utility partners to get that accomplished. That is now done. I think we've heard from at least 2 of them at this point with some thanks for that and the city's work on that. The note in here that Scott has on sidewalk replacements, our annual sidewalk replacement work is scheduled to take place this fall. Public Works has identified a number of areas to do some work. Some of those resident property owners that are adjacent will see some letters coming out indicating that the work's occurring, and there's a kind of a split in cost share on that. But you will see some sidewalk repair and replacement work occurring here in the next several weeks as well.
Great, thanks. We have a sheriff's report on page 49 with a fair amount of detail. Chris?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I have visited with police before about coming up with a better way of tracking and identifying the locations and priorities. And so I'm going to reach out to Detective Haas and see if we can get together and find a way to narrow it down about where those calls are and whether they're a priority or however they're rated. So, because there's a lot of data dumped right there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think that if I recall correctly, the last time the sheriff's department was here, they had some concerns about putting out specific addresses of certain calls and not wanting to necessarily release that data in a public facing report. But I know that he was working still on trying to get data on response times was something that you certainly had an interest in. I can follow up with him on that.
That would be good if you would, because again, the fire department also takes, has I'm sure issues about confidentiality in some of their calls. We don't need the exact address. If we could just break it down even into the 3 divisions, township, city, Saugatuck, and Douglas, and then determine who showed up at those places, because I know they divide it into quadrants, and they keep track of all that. So I think there's just, I just have to get myself there and start talking to them, find out.
Let's see, next is engineering report. Any questions on that? Okay, takes us to boards, commissions, and committees. Dan, will you kick it off with the fire district?
Dan Fox, I'm the, for those of you who don't know, the city council's representative to the Township Fire District Administrative Board. And this report covers roughly the last 30 days. For those of you interested in paying closer attention to us, a week from today, the board meets again. If you are interested in that, please go to the fire district's website, because I'm not sure the location of the meeting. Usually they're at the firehouse. This one may be at the new facility. More on that later.
I think it is.
I know the workshop was supposed to be there, but then they canceled the workshop, so I'm not sure if that moves forward. As I say, only one way to know for sure. I chose these pictures on for the title slide here. For those of you who haven't visited it or don't even know it exists, which is possible because it's not obvious, this is the live fire training facility located just west and a little bit south of the fire station. It was a cooperative effort led by the Township Fire District amongst, I think, 4 fire departments who use it, share it, and use it. What you're seeing there is they are, those are shipping containers, retired shipping containers into which stairways have been added, windows have been added, and so forth. The shipping containers are not flammable, but they're able to put smoke generating devices in there, fire in there, and whatever. And it's really sort of an unparalleled training facility in this area. I don't know that there are any others. And I saw this is Saugatuck's people, our people, using it there. But I think a day before that, I saw these fire trucks go by on Blue Star, and I thought, those aren't ours. And it was Zealand over to use it. So it's a pretty nifty thing, and worth going through sometime when they're using it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Fox. Chief Janet gave me a tour of this about a year ago, and I didn't even realize, and I go by Maple Street and Blue Star all the time, and I didn't even know it was there, and he gave me this full history of it, and it's something that not many communities have of this size, and the fact that Zealand and Graf's Cup and Hamilton and so forth come in and use the facility and have contributed to its cost and development says something about the leadership of our chief as well. So I would encourage anybody, if you have just give Chief Janik a call and go up and take a tour of it. It felt like I was on a movie set. I mean, it's that kind of a place. So definitely would recommend.
Well, as you can see in the picture on the right there, when the guys are suited up, I forget how many pounds all that stuff is. But then the photograph on the left, of the stairs going up, try and take that 2 or 3 times, or worse, take the ladder up and not go over backwards because the oxygen tank is so heavy. So it is a wonderful facility and asset. This is the incident data as of September, as you are used to seeing it. Incidents, the numbers literally right on top of what it was a year ago, so that's good. Response times up a little bit from 7:12 a year ago, 7 minutes, 12 seconds to 7:37. Again, you have to be kind of careful reading into response times because they're obviously dependent on where the response has to go. So we don't control that. The farther out they are, the longer it takes. So, and then down on the lower level, overlapping calls, they're below, quite a bit below the year ago rate, which is terrific because that strains resources when you have to staff 2 calls with equipment people. EMS calls, leading the list, 51% of all of them for September. Motor vehicle accidents, almost exactly what it was a year ago in September. And finally, as to locations, please don't read the script underneath locations because there's some goofy numbers work there, which we're going to change next month, but 228 is the number of incidents for Sagadaw. Next one, please, Jamie. This is not monthly data. This is year-to-date data, but updated to include September. There are no dramatic changes from what I showed you a month ago. EMS calls, people say, well, you're not really a fire department. And when you look at it, 2.73% of our calls are fire calls. And well over 50% are EMS calls. So there's some truth to that. Unfortunately, the apparatus and whatever that are required for those 2.73% are expensive. Training is expensive and so forth. So it's just one of the weirdnesses. Kind of like paying for tanks in the Army when they sit there most of the time and don't do anything. Next one, please. I showed you this chart a while back, and I think it was ahead of the gray bar is the one to look at, gray bars. And I think it was ahead of that very tall gray bar for June. Incidents at Douglas Cove, the nursing home in Douglas. The chief and the deputy chief, and I think one other of our people met with leadership at Douglas Cove. It's what we hope would be an effective first attempt without being heavy-handed to say, look, don't, somebody falls out of a wheelchair, you have people there. You don't need us to bring a truck and train people. And it looks like that jawboning or whatever you want to call it paid off. We'll see if that trend continues, but it's certainly headed in the right direction for the last couple of months. Next one, Jamie. Okay. I thought a quiz would be fun. Any ideas what that is?
Cell phone?
No,
Catalytic
that's a
converter?
good guess.
Catalytic converter?
Say it again.
Catalytic converter?
No. That is what's left of an e-bike battery.
Ooh.
Then
E-bike.
electric powered bicycle. You don't have, the bicycle, you don't have to pedal. It's kind of my kind of bicycle. Don't work up a sweat. You just stand there till this happens. The next one will explain it. This took place at the apartments on Maple. And you can see the narrative there in the lower part of that chart. Those are verbatims, but the words are selected. They don't give you a whole verbatim sentence, but they tell you what's happening. And this is from Allegan Central that records those, and that's how we get our reaction times, our response times, so forth. So it says exploding fire right by the garbage can, exploding as they speak, so forth. Next one, please.
Was that battery charging at the time? Was it plugged in?
The answer here.
Okay, sure.
Sorry. This is directly a quote from Greg, a note he sent out. The occupants had the e-battery in a bag next to their only exit door. And they heard a loud hiss, took the bag outside, put it next to the dumpster, not knowing what was going on exactly, but not wanting it in the house, where it subsequently exploded and became a thermal runaway. And it got so hot, which is what can happen with these in cars as well, that the radiant heat from the battery ignited the trash inside the dumpster. And as Chief says, imagine if this happened inside the apartment or inside somebody's garage or any number of places where that could have been.
So a literal dumpster fire.
Say it again?
A literal dumpster fire.
That
Not a
is
figurative
dumpster fire,
dumpster fire.
not our first, by the way. So hey, Chief says, please warn your kids and your grandkids. I don't know how actionable the warnings are because they don't all do this. Just like in cars, they don't all go, but when they go, it's a nightmare. We can't carry enough water to put it out if it's a car, electric battery, is underneath the car. If those go into thermal runaway, you kind of stand back and let it go. or just keep pouring water on it and transporting water back and forth. It's crazy. But at least it's a subject, it's a national subject of interest. You'll see it, we see it in the news. That's so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Just wanted to point out, I had that happen to me about 7 or 8 years ago, a Dell laptop computer that was not plugged in on my island, kitchen island. I happened to be sitting at home and it exploded and flames came out, and I was lucky to be there with a friend to see it happen and put it away, and it wasn't plugged in, so
Well, there's one, I mean, one of these in every phone.
Dell sent me a new computer.
Not bad.
How many of us sleep with our phone sitting right next to us charging?
Right, that's what
Mine
it
is.
is, right,
So, well, yet another thing to be worried about,
Yeah,
but
great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Dan.
thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. Hey,
Yeah,
another incident of note. This was just over the weekend, I think Sunday, I can't remember. Nice long narrative there. The call came in, 2 people, life jackets on and a Cobalt 37-foot express cruiser, white, thinks they had a mechanical issue. The call came from someone either on another boat or on shore, I'm not sure which. Water is in the engine compartment. Coast Guard's been notified. South Haven's been notified. There are 2 sailboats out there. 14-year-old son and the caller are on the line with Elegant Central here. And a note down at the bottom that the engine at whatever, it's 13:30, 7 minutes after the first call came in, the engines are covered by a couple inches of water. It's not good. And you can see in the top picture that the boat is clearly taking water on from somewhere in the back of the boat, rear of the boat, stern of the boat. I'm not a boater. Picture below it is our 2496, that 2496, the smaller of the 2 fire districts, fireboats. South Haven couldn't get a boat out there. It was closer to South Haven than it was to Saugatuck. South Haven couldn't get a boat out of there. The Coast Guard was coming from Manistee by boat. A helicopter was supposedly en route. They didn't say where that was coming from. I'm not sure if the helicopter ever arrived. They waved it off. So de facto, it was the Saugatuck guys or nobody. But they are in the lower picture on the left, getting ready to transfer the father and his son off the boat and bring them back to Saugatuck. The Coast Guard vessel arrived shortly after that and towed, so the boat didn't sink. They towed it to wherever they towed it. And that's our guys coming back into the harbor at the end of it. Same, I made this kind of comment before, but same kind of thing. Just when you start to question, geez, how much do the boats cost? And do we really need? Because this was the faster of the 2 boats, because we were fortunate and the lake was not wavy, they were able to get there promptly and do what was necessary. Next one, please, Jamie. I thought you might be interested. A parade crowd control note. That is Douglas's custom created, fabricated, I guess in their own shops, I don't know. Way to organize and transport their crowd control barriers. Might have some, forgive me for suggesting, but if the July rolls around, I'd be nice to the people in Douglas and see if we could avail ourselves of those kind of thing. I thought it's pretty clever.
nice job.
Yeah.
Way to go, Kathy.
Yeah. You can probably see him in action on Halloween if you go over. So, next one, please. And finally, a South Station thank you. Big article in the Commercial Record today. So I thought we'd feature, even though I know Cindy's going to kill me because I couldn't get her hair exactly right when I took the background out of that picture. So it looks like she's wearing some sort of bizarre hat.
Dark hat.
I didn't take the picture. They took the picture. They put it on the website. All I did was lift it off and get rid of the trees in back of it. Anyway, they approved the issuance of the $5 million in secured bonds to fund the South Station, which is what those blueprints, early blueprints, not final, show right above them. For the station improvements as well as related improvements, because there will be improvements also made at the existing station for the purposes of housing overnight people, overnight staff, so we're staffed that's been a challenge. We have them there, but it's nowhere as hospitable as it should be. Plus you need separate female, male bathrooms, all this stuff. So anyway, as far as we're concerned, those 5 people, one of whom is on the fire board, became some of our very best friends at the fire district. So, and the last one just says, thank you for listening. I think.
Yes, just go with that last.
Sorry, you want the back one?
Yes. Is this the route that they're choosing to use when they bring in the trucks? So they'll come out the back of the building when they,
This is.
I was pointing at
this
the
is
arrows.
Blue-
Yeah, I know where
this
this
is Blue Star.
Yeah, I know where
So when they exit, when they respond,
That's what it,
they'll respond to Wiley Road.
so the answer was yes. Yeah.
Because responding onto Blue Star creates traffic.
That's what I thought, yeah.
And there isn't, and we were told, and I think, and Kathy North, she's on the phone probably. That, I don't know if it's 6 months away or 6 years away, but there are plans someplace to have stoplights in at Wiley Road and Blue Star
Oh,
Highway, which will then make this even
better.
because you'll be able to control those
Right.
lights and open it up when they have.
I was
to.
gonna say that's smart.
So this is these are 3 days double, basically.
Nice.
6 trucks.
All right, any questions for Dan? Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Gregory, and Urban Board.
Well, our next meeting is next week on the 21st, and so that's when we'll be able to have those September numbers, but if you remember. I shared at our last meeting, our August numbers that we carried a record ever for the month of August than any other month in our 45 years of service. 16,352 riders, and we carried 609 riders from Lake Time. So that just in 1 month, so they're taking advantage of it, as well as 321 riders going to the city of Fenville. So we're finding that expansion is very much appreciated and being used by the folks out in those communities. And we're super excited. We're right now in the pilot program with Spare, and Spare is our new software program. We've kind of had some issues, kind of hit a brick wall with our last software company, where it was bought out and the expansions weren't there, the updates weren't there. We were promised at one point that we'd be able to connect an app to it, because I know I've talked about that app. And with this software, we will be introducing an app next year. So you'll be able to track your bus, see where it's going. They've already been kind of making little experiments with it as well, and helping out. I think Judith, and she's on our board as well out there. And I don't know if she's done any of that experiments with the app or not. But it'll be exciting to launch that next year. The drivers right now, we're all saying it's a positive experience with the new software. So we're excited with that. It was a little bit pricier, but we are in that pilot program right now. After the pilot program, then we'll choose whether or not we want to go forward with purchasing. So our meeting is next week. I speak to Becky quite often, and we're excited as we're starting to get ready to break the ground to expand the building, adding a restroom, and making our garage a little bit bigger for much needed more work. So
Terrific.
yeah.
Thanks, Gregory. Joe, Cal Lake Sewer and Water?
Yeah, not a lot to report. We did have a special meeting last week where we approved the job posting that's going out for what'll be the new general manager role. So that should be out posted, probably is already supposed to be posted either over the weekend or yesterday. Looks like it'll be well within, the budget models that we found, which has kind of uncovered some other challenges with Daryl's departure. Nobody can seem to find the details of how the budget was put together. So we're still looking. But, kind of if you go back and look a few years at the operating models, right, it looks like we're running consistently at 10+% surplus. So if you kind of back into it, it looks like, the budgets tend to be put together with a little bit of conservatism in it. So that's point one. Point two is there were some expenditures on the capital side that we saw right away we could probably pull out. One being a vehicle, so staff doesn't need it. So there's plenty of room in this year's budget, and we're getting close to the end of the fiscal year anyway, so there's no issues there. But we do want to make sure we get under the covers. Again, just kind of looking at the operations side, it kind of looks like bang, Daryl had it down pat, right? He knew what it was going to cost. He put usually 10 to 20% in. Capital side, as we all know, is variable based on the projects, and it doesn't look like anything was deferred into this year either. So anyway, financially, it looks like it's a layup for this year's budget. And yeah, that's about it. Want to have a more detailed report after our next regularly scheduled meeting. So thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Chris, anything? Nope. Right. Zoning Board of Appeals, I think that meeting was canceled.
Correct,
All
Mayor.
right. Russ Historic District.
Yes, thank you. We met in regular meeting schedule on Thursday, October 2nd. We had a number of administrative approvals, but for actual discussion and new business, 439 Butler, which is also known as Wilkins Hardware Building, where the Butler Pantry is currently located. They're proposing a roofing project on the upper second story to remove and replace deteriorated 100-year-old tile cap with womanized lumber wrapped in matching decorative flashing. And the architect and I believe the building owner was here, for certainly the contractor. And if you ever have walked past or looked at that building, and if you look up, you'll see that the parapet, I call it, around the edge of the building is ceramic tiles. And this is old construction. I had these at my home in Chicago. That's why I was very familiar with this when they started talking about it. And the tile cap, portions of them have broken. And so the proposal was to replace that with womanized lumber, as well as, it was very thoughtful, putting in basically prefabricated caps. And the historic district went right to our ordinance, and our ordinances require that like materials be replaced with like materials. So we had a discussion and actually helped the contractor source some companies that produce the tile cap, because at first he said I couldn't find these, and just a couple of people on the commission who have experience in this space were able to actually find that information for him quickly. And so the commission tabled the application, and they are going to be coming back at our November meeting to come back with a proposal to replace like with like. And if you walk by a building and if you look up, you think, why do we even care about this? But if you look at the building as part of the original construction, and when you look up, it may look decorative to the common person, but it's part of the original construction. It was meant for disbursement of water onto the roof and then gutters and down to the street. And it adds character to the building. It's just part of the construction. So that's the reason why we used our ordinance and used our standards to apply to this. And the contractor was completely amenable to this, just needs some help with sourcing. So we expect to see him back at our November meeting. Our November meeting is scheduled for, just to make sure I get this right, we are scheduled to meet on Thursday, November 6th at 6 p.m. So if you're not busy and like to come see us do our work, please join us.
Great. Thanks, Russ. Joe, planning.
Yeah, we have our regular monthly meeting scheduled this Thursday, where we plan to go through the survey results as well as the open house feedback. Also, we're going to be continuing with our discussion around this new sign, this updating the sign ordinance. Had a great open house. Thank all of you that showed up. It was really appreciated. We had a really good turnout. So looking forward to seeing the results of what how people contributed to the future of our city.
Great.
Mayor Anderson,
Yeah.
question for Councilmember Clark. I've had a couple of folks ask me if all of the comments that were provided are going to be published for the public.
Yeah, they're in the packet. I didn't look to see if all of them were there, but it looked like there was a good summary in there. But
Yeah, we should, I suggest we give everything out to everybody, as we've done with the city surveys, all the comments. A lot of people have, I don't know what the final numbers were, but there's been a very high participation rate. And I know a lot of folks spend a fair amount of time putting personal comments in for the
Yep.
planning commission, the council to consider about the importance of this. And I've not seen the comments, but I would ask that the planning commission publish that for everybody to see, all of the comments. So, as we've done with other surveys.
I haven't looked at the details, but I'm sure I would be surprised if they're not in there, but I'll make sure that they are. It's a
Thank
good
you.
point.
Thank
Yep.
you. Appreciate it.
Lauren?
Yeah, we had some exciting things with the Parks and Public Works Committee. Just today, Ryan and I were part of a group that went on a tour. We like to call it an adult. We were on an adult field trip today where we got in a bus with a group of people that were part of the Kalamazoo River Greenway project. And those of us who are on that committee, I'm part of it as being your representative on the Parks and Public Works Committee. And it was really great because we toured the Macatawa area Greenway and showed what they are doing in that area to see what we can do in the Kalamazoo River area. So we toured some rain gardens that are in their downtown areas that are coming off City Hall, some local homes, some really good things that they can do to filter rainwater through the area, which is so much better when that storm water goes out to Lake Macatawa and eventually out to Lake Michigan. It's just being filtered in the best way. We've toured farmland where measures are being put in place to filter that water. So the runoff off from the farmland is being filtered in a natural way. And honestly, it was really quite impressive. And there's a lot of people with a lot of passion that are a part of this group. And to see some of the ideas that have already been put in place in the Macatawa area Greenway will be eventually put in place in the Kalamazoo River Greenway. So just know that there are some really smart people working on these projects, and they'll be happening in our area as well. The Dark Sky event is Tuesday, October 21st. Just so you guys remember, it's at Oval Beach. It's from 8 to 10 p.m. Everyone is welcome to attend this event, and looking forward to that, to just talk about what we want to see in our community as far as the appreciation of the Dark Sky Initiative and what that means for our community. And then the public art installation that we saw with in front of Cook Park. I think a lot of people attended that as well. And I just, from the Parks and Public Works perspective, is really important to see the Convention and Visitors Bureau take part in that and give us public art in this way. You know, it's just a temporary exhibit for now. But I think it'll be a really nice off-season thing that people can see when it gets really dark in the gloomy winter months. And we just really appreciate the Convention and Visitors Bureau doing what they did to bring that to us. The next meeting for Parks and Public Works is October 28th. That's a Tuesday at 10 a.m.
Great.
Lauren?
Yeah.
The Saugatuck Center for the Arts, when they expanded and built out from the Pie Factory, they have rain gardens as well. Did you know that?
Yes.
Okay, I was just wondering, you know, in case you want to poke at Kristen or find out who did that or.
And there's so many really great groups in town that are helping homeowners with that. I'll have something in a couple of weeks to tell everyone about a grant that was through Bell's Brewery, has been given to our area, where homeowners can actually apply for grants to help with rain gardens in their own front yards. So, you know, we don't want things going into the Kalamazoo Lake that, you know, contribute to our invasive species like the milfoil and that sort of thing. And so there's ways that we can help our own front yards, backyards, whatever they may be. And there's experts out there that can really help with those things.
I think it's really cool and
Yeah.
interesting how they built those.
Yeah.
And how the water gets filtered
It
before
does.
it goes back in.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Anderson. And I was at the Saturday event along with several council members. Good comments by Mayor Anderson. Nice event, as well attended, lots of donuts, which went really quickly. Good cider and so forth. However, when the, and beautiful installation, good to hear from the artist. And it's interesting to see it at night, so if you haven't been down there, take a look at it. But I had a former Commodore of Singapore Yacht Club reach out to me a couple weeks ago and had asked about installing art in Cook Park. And when I called him up and we talked, he said that the Cook family, when they donated the property to the city, stipulated that there was to be no permanent installations of any type in the park. That was part of their gift to the city. As it is in the city, it's difficult sometimes to find some of the documentation around this. So I've given some information to the city manager and asked him to follow up on this. So the Commodore, you know, once I said this is a temporary art installation, this will be removed, and I think it's March, if I remember correctly. That satisfied him. But again, this is the kind of situation where we don't anticipate these kinds of questions, but I appreciate community members when they come and ask questions. And it just reminds me of how important these spaces are to the people that live here. So anyway, we'll find out a little bit more about this once Ryan's had a chance to investigate this.
Was the Commodore, was he able to have a copy of that agreement?
No, the only thing we could find out was that the last time this came up was back in the mid-eighties when Vern Cerny was our city manager, and at the time, there was some different things that were trying to be done with Cook Park, and this came up and actually stopped some projects at the time. So I'm thinking there's probably documentation somewhere here in City Hall in a buried box that hasn't been digitized yet. So anyway, this isn't an immediate thing we need to have answers on right away, but again, something we should investigate to make sure that we're respectful of the Cook family who donated the property to the city. Thank you.
So another question, was this an official concern from Singapore Yacht Club or?
No, this is a former Commodore of Singapore Yacht Club.
Okay,
Oh,
got it.
Yeah, former.
Okay, Scott's not here. Ryan, anything on the tri-community non-motorized trail?
Yeah, I included in my report, one, an update from the Friends of the Blue Star Trail, and their harvest ride was very successful and raised $50,000. We also met with MDOT and the tribal nations to discuss their findings and comparing historical records to the trail route and kind of next steps. And so there's some archaeological, shovel testing, survey work that's going to be necessary along the route. And so we're working on MDOT finalizing those details to then send to us what the requirements will be for that work, what we need to accomplish, so then we can work to find a party to actually help us conduct that work properly and scope it out and get all the necessary details that we need back to MDOT and the tribes to sign off on the work and find out how much it's going to cost and have that discussion with you. So some work ahead over the next several months, but we at least kind of know what the next step is.
Great, thanks. Any questions, Chris?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Did 2 more tribes join in?
Yes, at least I believe it was 2, at least 1 for sure, but it might
So
have
how many
been-
tribes are we dealing with now?
Say at least 4. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Water System Operations Contract Advisory Committee.
We meet Thursday.
Okay. And I don't think there's anything new on the wildlife management. Is there, Ryan, that you know of?
There's not other than, not from the committee itself, Mayor. No.
Okay.
No.
All right, takes us to approval of accounts payable, page 56. Can I get a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $398, $383.92 as stated at our October meeting agenda.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor. When I was reviewing the bills, line 43, Sagatuck Public Schools, parking lot split, $40,607.25. I know our treasurer's not on the phone. Do we know what that is?
Yeah, that's the culvert lot.
Okay, oh, got it, okay.
Yep.
Got it. All right, because when I see split, I think property split, lot split.
Yeah, no, that's their half of, doing
Of
volunteer
the-
work
Of the
there.
receipts
Yep.
from this summer. Great, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? All right, so roll call vote.
Anderson?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Muncy?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Motion carries. No public hearings or unfinished business, which takes us to new business. 14A is the bid award for road and parking lot repairs on page 65.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve award to A1 Asphalt Incorporated in the amount of $57,208.10 for asphalt repairs with a total project cost of $67,000 and to allow the mayor and city clerk to sign associated contracts.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? I know we covered this at the workshop, but
Yeah, it'd be, again, this is something that I really am pleased that the engineer and the superintendent of DPW have remained focused on, just some needed repairs on streets. And one that's particular on here that I've been mentioning for probably a year now is Hoffman Street End. So I'm very glad to see that's getting repaired. It's if you've not been down there to see it, you should take a look at it because it's in bad need of repair. And the Lucy Street east of Butler And then Main Street west of Water Street and Wicks Park parking lot, will take care of some issues. And I know there's some others that are be coming here for probably next year for repair, but 100% on board with this. This is the kind of work we need to do.
And I'll just make a comment that it's a good start, but I have a list myself.
Yep.
And it'll be nice to see all this come together. We've got a lot of road work to do, and we know these things are on our list and on our minds.
Yes, anything else? All right, so roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Switch it up a little.
I know. Good, Jamie, keeps our brains going. 14B is a selection of a parking consultant for support of the Advisory Parking Improvements Task Force, page 75 of our packet. We talked about this at the workshop, Ryan. Any questions? I know yes, Chris.
I do, and I apologize, I wasn't here for the workshop, but I do have some questions after going through all the information we had. And these would be for, who is available on there from?
Eric Haggett with Walker Consultants is on Zoom. Yep.
Okay, I have a couple of questions, Eric, and the first one is, what is Fleece Vanderbrink doing that you can't do? I mean, I looked at your qualifications and you seem kind of parallel to each other. So I'm wondering why there was why we needed the co-groups working.
Eric, Mr. Haggett, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, sorry about that. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, what does Fleece Vanderbrink do for this project that your group is not able to do?
Their primary function is the field data collection, since they maintain the city's GIS database, and they're located in Grand Rapids or have a strong presence in Grand Rapids, and are very familiar with the city. We thought that they could be more efficient at doing the inventory of spaces within the city, as well as the bulk of the occupancy and turnover counts, the actual field collection, supplemented by Walker staff.
Okay, thank you. My second one has to do with more kind of thinking of our staff. Because when I looked at all the work plans and then what the tasks were, there were some there that I felt were pretty vague about who was doing what, but I looked at them, it was going to take a lot of staff time if our staff is expected to do that. So on page 110, the work plan. Number 2, it's participate in a separate project kickoff meeting. So my question, I guess, is kind of getting down into the nitty gritty. Who will be setting up and do the mailings and do the minutes and send out the reports? Is your group doing that, or are we requiring our staff to do all of that? And maybe Ryan knows the answer to this too. My concern is that a lot of this requires a lot of computer time that I just want our staff not to get overworked on something like this. So can you help me with number 2 then? Are you going to do the minutes, the reports, setting up the meetings, drafting the documents?
Yeah, that would be all our team, the Walker and Fleece and Vandenbrink team. So aside from attending the meetings or participating in a phone call or two, all of that agenda preparation, reporting out, all of that would be our staff.
Okay, and on the setting up the meetings, then that you would also be contacting all of the people that need to be there and having them reply to you so that Jamie doesn't have to keep track of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's correct, 100%.
Okay, then I guess I would just turn to Ryan and say, have you read through this? I know you probably know it by heart. Are there parts in here that you think maybe are more of a push on our staff than on the consultants?
No, and the excellent questions. And we kind of talked with them during our interview of them as well about how are you going to be really supporting the task force? Are you going to be really working with them, helping to prepare the agendas and preparing materials to go in those meeting packets and preparing the necessary follow-up reports? And I feel comfortable that the Walkers going to do that work and lead that work. And certainly they'll need feedback from staff and how we handle enforcement and what our current ordinances, allow for and don't allow for. And so there'll be some feedback that we'll provide them, but I'm confident that Walker will lead this process well with the chair and the committee.
Okay. And then going into the enforcement part, I'm glad you brought that up. Will you be working with the police too? Because I guess they're the ones that take care of the tickets. You'll be doing this with all of our counterparts, and I saw you're going to look outside also the area if there's other places for parking facilities. So it's a wide ground you're throwing out there, but your staff will be doing it.
Yes, correct. We'll be conducting outreach to all the various city staff members. I really don't think that the time commitment on the city's part will be huge, really phone conversations or in-person meetings when we're there. And then we will, our staff and Police and Vandenbrink will also be looking at opportunities outside of the city limits as well. So no staff time required there.
And my last question, thank goodness, huh? I read that both of you do a lot of work on grants. Will you be looking at grants to support any of this?
Yes, we do a lot of work in that area. The availability of grants for parking specific projects is pretty limited. However, there are potentially opportunities for if there are joint facilities with transit or potentially brownfield cleanups, but we'll be exploring what the opportunities are both on the local, state, and federal level.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Chris.
Anything else?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Anderson. So just for the benefit of everybody that doesn't come to a council workshop except us for the most part, just a few questions that I had. And Eric, by the way, thank you for being at our meeting this evening. A few of the questions that I asked, one is, I've heard from a number of people, and I know one has already been given to the city of previous studies that the city has paid for in the past. I think from the 90s, and I think maybe Sandra Randolph might have had that information and has been provided.
I don't know that we paid for them. I think that most of them were citizen generated.
Okay. And then I think there's also one that's been referenced by Mr. John Thomas, I believe, as well. He's been pretty vocal about this, and I don't know if he's got access to something. The reason I'm asking these questions is because if this has been a topic that's been here in the city for as long as I can remember and prior to my memories. And there's a lot of things that haven't changed about the site. The city hasn't changed size. Maybe the number of visitors that come to our town has changed. The point I'm making is that there's probably a lot of information in those studies, whether they were publicly generated, consultant generated, that can be a benefit to this task force before the consultants even get involved. So in other words, the consultants would want to see this information too, because it could just leverage their work and their experience. So I would certainly ask the task force, and when is the task force going to meet? Do you have?
October 28th.
Wonderful.
We do have all that information, and that will be brought to the meeting as well. I've got the big stack on my desk, and when I'm bored, I sit at my desk and go through it. But we will be using all that information that was provided by Sandra Randolph when they did this study about 30 years ago.
Yeah, and I think that will be very informative. And I think what we'll learn, as I've learned in this town, is that much of what we've experienced 30, 40 years ago remains today. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. I think the task force has a great job in front of it. I appreciate everybody that's involved. The other question I had was, or actually more comment in task one in the proposal, was project coordination and problem identification. I mentioned that at the workshop too, is I think the key for this task force is to identify and understand what the true problem with parking is in town. I've told several stories about conversations I've had with citizens about what they view the problem as being, and it's generally, I can't pick my script up at the drugstore because there's no 15-minute parking spot. I can't go to the Sandbar on a Saturday afternoon to get a beer because I can't park anywhere near it. Well, that's a different problem.
Right.
That's a different problem. But the problem identification, in my opinion, is going to be key to drive this process, and will give the consultants the direction that they need in terms of what we think the real problem really is. And I don't think it's capacity, I think it's management. And that's my personal opinion. The other question I had was on page 91 of the packet, was why isn't Peterson Preserve and areas on the hill, Upper Mason, for instance, included? It might not match on this particular document because this is from the workshop packet. But I did, and I think Eric commented that they're going to be making adjustments to that scope. to include because Peterson Preserve actually has dedicated parking, public parking spots on it and should be included in this study. And it was explained in Upper Mason, there was a reason why that wasn't included in the original scope. So just another thing to be aware of, that we want to make sure we include all public parking that's currently in scope. Also too, just to note that we're not expecting delivery of the final report until summer of 2026. The reason being is because they want to see the town when it's really in action in the summer, which we're now past that point. So if you look at parking today, you'd be like, there's no problem whatsoever. So just to understand that we're not going to see a final report. We'll see activity, but we won't see a final report until next summer. The other thing too is I've been, full disclosure, up for reelection. I've been going out knocking on doors, and I've had at least 4 or 5 people that have said, how much are we paying this consultant? $84,000. And I've had to not rationalize, but I've had to explain, especially these are people that are knowledgeable about the previous studies that have been done, what benefit are we getting from this $84,000? And what I've said is that they will be providing professional assistance over the course of many months to study and evaluate and do professional work and go out and measure, run the meetings, et cetera, that we've learned. So that's on some citizens' minds in terms of the expense. So just, it's out there, just be prepared for that question. I've been asked that question at least 4 times now. That doesn't stop my support for the project. I still support this. I think it's something we need to do, so.
Thank you, Russ. That was my concern as well, was cost. That was my number one concern, and I've heard that from a few folks as well. And that's why I'm very happy to say that, right away after the meeting, I said, hey, Ryan, can we do anything to knock that down a little bit? And Ryan was cut their original cost by about $22,000. I know it was expensive, but I'm glad that we saved on it and using, I felt, the most professional group that we interviewed. So I'm happy about that. As far as they're not parking being a lot easier now, I don't know about that.
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay, because on
Didn't say that.
Saturday, I spent about an hour looking for a parking place in front of my home. And so our shoulder seasons have gotten busier. I'm hearing that from all of our business owners. A lot of them are saying they had banner years this year. And you know, that flows. Some people don't, some people do, but I'm hearing a lot of businesses, especially on the 300 block, are telling me that they've had banner years. So as far as parking in front of the sandbar, if you're going to the sandbar, I encourage that you take the interurban.
Well done. Well
Next
done.
time I see my friend,
Well
I'll say
done.
that.
Walk home. And then another note, I'm really excited about the committee that we put together. We decided that we were gonna have 1 resident when we originally thought about if you guys remember, putting the committee together, and we had 2 applicants that were residents, and we thought, well, why not have them both?
Okay.
And so we've got another resident on the board, which I think is very important when it comes to this discussion. A couple of the business owners that are on the board have served in previous community boards, so they're familiar with working with the public. So on hot topic issues, I've seen them in those kinds of meetings, so that's good. And so I think we have a well-rounded board, and we're excited to hit it on October 28th at our first meeting. We're also going to have public input. I'm going to try to make those as fun as possible with our consultant group. And where folks can interact and talk about parking as well. And super excited about having community input in all of this as well. One of our first priorities when we start these meetings is we're going to be asking ourselves, what's the problem? And I think before we go for any further with anything that we do, that's the first thing we're going to do is really hammer out what's the real problem we have here. Knowing all the resources we have, like interurban. I mean, you can hear me on the air and hear at these meetings all the time saying that's your perfect parking solution. But the thing is trying to get people to use it, no matter how much you advertise it. So there's a lot of things to learn, a lot about behavior, but that's the first thing we're going to hit when we get into these meetings is why are we doing this? What's the real problem?
What time is that meeting on the 28th?
October 28th at
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
3 p.m.
One other thing I'm hearing as I'm talking with people aside from cost is no parking structure, period. I have heard that without any prompting whatsoever. So
I've heard everything from no parking period, no paid parking period, no structure period, no more parking places period. Every day, when I walk outside my home on the corner of Hoffman and Butler, I get lots of divisions. So, I know that, the parking structure thing is divisive. So-
It's $50,000 a space.
Yes, and
So,
that-
I mean,
that's
I
another-
think that kind of put
Right.
that to
When
to
we
bed.
learned from these consultants, and several of them were saying, from the other teams as well. That, yeah, $50,000 per parking place, I don't think our taxpayers will wanna pay
Yeah.
that. So I highly doubt it, but it's not. I'm not gonna say it's not something we won't talk about, but because of the price and because of, and you know, the road work that we have ahead of us. I don't know if it would really be within our budget means to even build one if it was something that was desired.
Do we have a motion?
No.
Okay.
Well, do not.
Will someone make a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the proposal from Walker Consultants for consulting services to conduct a parking study and recommend solutions in the amount of $84,425.
I'll second.
I think we've had our discussion. Any last words before we vote?
Yes.
Call vote then.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry.
I brought up during the workshop a concern on the contract language around the ownership of documents. I can't see if anything's changed, but I'm just going to read it real quick and see if the wisdom of the council agrees with my concern. Walker shall retain ownership of all reports, drawings, plans, specifications, electronic files, field data, notes, calculations, and other documents and instruments prepared by Walker as instruments of service, except that client shall retain ownership in the task reports and final report prepared by Walker upon acceptance by client and any GIS files created in connection with Walker's service to client.
Why don't we get it all?
These are work products. I have a problem with that. I don't know, Eric, were you able to
Yeah.
talk with your leadership about that? And I don't know. if
Yeah,
we-
I added the task order language. I thought that was sufficient. If not, I'm certainly happy to revisit it. Yeah, I thought that was what we had discussed at the meeting, but if my understanding was incorrect, then my apologies for that.
Yeah, the addition, just to clarify, they did modify this to add the task reports. Because there's, essentially all the data they're putting together is going to go in the task reports. And so.
Yeah, I appreciated
I had
that.
that same understanding from your workshop. So if there's more that you're interested in, then.
Well,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you have right to say, my understanding from interviewing everyone, that was part of the deliverables. So those are the things that we would be getting. The ownership of documents, I think it had something to do with their proprietary rights, or something like that.
that was the concern, and I appreciate that. Intellectual property should stay
Right.
with the owner, and there is no intellectual property language that I could find in here. So I get that they're calling that out. The only problem that I have is, and I do appreciate that they put in the task reports, but it's not specific about what goes in the task reports. So essentially, at their discretion, they can pull pretty much any of the work product out of this, exclude it from either the final report or task report, and we have no claim to it. So that's my only, at least that's my take on it after reading the contract. I know Jacob might have a different take on it.
Eric, do you,
Sorry about that.
oh, sorry.
Jake's on.
Oh, sorry, Jake.
Yeah, I am on. I didn't know if that was a question directed at me. I know this is something that Ryan and I had some back and forth on. And we think that as presented, this likely does a good job of balancing the consultant's interest in maintaining possession of their proprietary information and keeping, making sure that the city has the right to use all the documents that are prepared in the course of business. But I'm open to thoughts. I don't necessarily have large concerns one way or the other. I think as a practical matter, the stuff that the consultant brings to the meetings and prepares and delivers to the city is going to be the property of the city, and that's what the city's going to use.
Can I just ask Joe a question? Joe, is there specific language you would like in there to give you confidence it covered?
Yeah.
Um, I would have preferred to see it separated, right, to work products that are owned, that would be, the ownership would be retained by the city versus intellectual property that would be, remain in effect ownership of the consulting firm. But, I'm, if Jacob's signing off on this and he feels that we're good with it, he's got the legal mind, so I'm okay with it. And I don't want to hold this up either. I mean, believe me, I'm 100% for this going forward. I just want to make sure that our interests are protected with the deliverables and the work product. And
Could we say something like,
Russ was next. Can
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Anderson. Putting on my old consultant hat, when we did consultancy work, our work product and in our field notes, as it says here, any notes, field data, reports, drawings and plans that we produced as part of our effort belong to the company I work for. The final report and any other deliverables that we gave to the client, in this case specified as the task reports, the final report and the GIS files. The GIS files, I think, are the critical item here because that's going to be something that our engineers, future city managers, the current city manager, councils will use to reference back to the study that was completed, that will be completed. But all the work that they do in the field, again, the reports, drawings, plans, specs, electronic files, field data, and notes and calculations is their work product to help produce the information they'll be giving to the city. So I understand where Councilmember Clark is coming from. The question will be is, does the information that the consultant will give us at the end of the project allow the city to move forward and not have to go back to the consultant on a regular basis, say, hey, we didn't get this information, we didn't give this information, and then there's going to be and I'm not saying this is the case with this consultant, but you're going to have to pay to get this additional information because we own it. That would be the situation I would be concerned about. So that's really the question is, do we get the deliverables that we need as a city to make decisions? And also for the engineers, the city engineers, our superintendent of DPW, the city manager, councils, whatever, to continue to manage this asset. That's essentially the way that I look at it.
Yeah, and initially
That makes sense to everybody?
Yeah, and to that point, the initial terms that came over that, basically said that all the work product was walkers. And that was something that, yeah, as Jake indicated, that I flagged, asked him to work on some language. I think Councilmember Clark made an excellent observation at the work session to say, well, there's a lot of, deliverables throughout the process that, we don't want to wait till the end to get the work product. What if we had to end this sooner and we wanted what you did up until that point? And so with that point, I think, the task force has the deliverables to Councilmember Gardner's point, throughout the project that I think I'm comfortable that those task reports are going to contain what we need at each point. But I defer to you if you feel like you want stronger language.
is there acceptance on the task reports?
I think they're just, they're reports throughout, but not an acceptance process necessarily.
Because that's the only real vehicle to ensure that you're getting the data that you want, other than the final report. So.
Sure.
Question for Eric. Eric, as you work through these projects with clients and you finish up, you do your final report and you shake hands and go on to your next project, do clients come back to you for questions? And if they do, what types of questions are they asking you? And what's going to be the, how's that engagement going to look with follow-up questions? Are we going to be contracting with you on an hourly basis to answer questions? And
No, absolutely not. No. So the way these things typically go, we deliver our final report, implementation plan. There's, I'd say 9 times out of 10, there are follow-up questions, whether it's, where do we look next for policies that we might want to emulate, or how do we approach, setting enforcement schedules, that sort of thing. So follow-up questions related to our work and the implementation plan. I'm sorry, I'm right next to a train. Are not going to be extra services. If, for instance, after this study was done, you said, oh, now we want you to consider additional options for surface parking and we want you to produce drawings, that would be an additional service. But follow-up questions, revisions of the task reports, revisions of the final report, those are all covered in this scope. So I think that language in the contract is supposed to say, or the intent is, you're satisfied with the deliverable, you accept that this is satisfactory for either the task reports or the final report. And at that point, that becomes yours, but you get to say, hey, I'd like to see a little more detail here or a little more, of the backup data for this, that sort of thing. That's all totally within the scope of this language here.
I think they assured us that during the interview process, that if we had to go back for information that they'd already gathered about this, that they would be willing.
Joe, how are you feeling about this?
I mean, I'm okay. It's not perfect, but it'll, let's get it done. Let's get going. I mean, my only concern is that, drawing a plan or something, but what if we inventory all the parking spots and that comes out in a drawing and it doesn't show up in one of our final reports, it's lost, right? It's not ours anymore. So,
But-
our only remedy in that situation is to not approve the final report. So there is obviously linkage there that where we can argue our point to get that in, but we're just gonna have to be diligent on our side because there's no going back after that final report. So,
I would think we
You know.
would get that along, I mean,
It's public. I mean, you're going to have it in the task force. It's going to be out there anyway. I mean, if they bring the drawings, I mean, so are you under the assumption that they won't show the drawings?
no, I'm under the assumption that the drawings are not ours and we're not allowed to use them. If
think
they're
once
not
it
in
hits
the task report and they're not in a final report, they are not ours and we can't use them. That's what the language says.
Yeah, I think to the extent that there's drawings that I think most of them I anticipate will rely upon GIS and those systems. GIS files is included as something that is
That is carved out, yep.
I suppose there could be some drawings outside of that, outside of GIS files that, perhaps.
Yeah, for instance.
I'm not
there's a-
trying to, I don't want to spiral this thing, down. It's just a risk that's out there. I mean, we want to have a good relationship with them. In a perfect world, we rewrite this, but as long as we know that when we sign acceptance on that final report, if there's any information that's out there that we want to lay claim to, we're going to have to go back to them and tell them to include it in the final report. Because otherwise we lose it forever. That's the only thing, so.
Eric, were you gonna say something?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to add, related to, drawings in particular, as part of this, we're going to be evaluating, surface lot layouts and that sort of thing. And, if there's an opportunity to improve those layouts, we would include the output of that in the task deliverable, final report, et cetera. What we scope for is not to the level of like AutoCAD drawings or anything similar that you'd be able to actually take out and, bid for restriping or repaving or anything like that. But I understand the concern with all of this. I will say that Walker's tenure as a company and our, sort of high proportion of repeat clients, there's almost no circumstance that I can imagine where I would refuse to provide within reason backup documentation, additional support, even after acceptance of the final report, even follow-up questions. I mean, there's still clients that I talk to, 6 months or a year after, quote unquote, the project's done with clarifying questions or, hey, I wanted to know what's the best direction on this. So if that gives you any comfort at all, I know it's only my word, but that's sort of our standard mode of operation.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just to follow up on that, Eric, has this ever occurred to you? Has this ever happened to you before? And the person that you're working for wants something and you do not want to give it to them? Do you have an example of that?
Not to me personally in 17 years. So like I said, it's hard to imagine what that might be. I've never run into that circumstance though.
Thank you.
Are we ready to vote?
Yep.
All right, roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Muncy?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes. Motion carries. Good discussion. Let's move to C, the cost sharing agreement for 720 North Maple Water Service Line replacement on page 129. We start with a motion.
I'm getting there. We're trying.
Page 130.
120,
130
130.
maybe.
Madam Mayor.
Ready?
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the cost sharing agreement with Victor Rodriguez for a water service line replacement at 720 North Maple Street and installation of 8-inch water main stub.
Second.
discussion, questions? Yes, Russ.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, Madam Mayor, thank you, is we did have an extended discussion Wednesday at the workshop. And again, for the benefit of people that don't come to our workshop, except for us, is that this is a situation that occurred as a result of a water turnoff at the Old Mill Apartments. I think it's the Old Mill, right?
Yep.
And which resulted in Mr. Rodriguez's property being turned off and learning that his pipe was tied into for water purposes to the Old Mill line. And this is in response to that, to separate his line from the Old Mill line. And that was as a result of the plumber, I'm paraphrasing Mr. Rodriguez, is that the plumber at the time used this as a fast way to get the service to him when he was doing work at Old Mill. So this is the kind of thing that comes up occasionally in our community and others too, is that, you know, there's things below the ground that we don't know about that happened. And this is a correction of that. And the city does have, in my opinion, a partial financial responsibility, and as we're considering here, a 50-50 share to get this right. And again, there was some discussion regarding previous approvals that were given for the property development that he was given back by previous zoning administrator. So if a question comes up about why is the city paying for this, it's because it's a situation that we've just discovered as a result of another action that was taken, and in my opinion, makes this a right. I don't like having to spend money on this, but it's the right thing to do.
And then also, it's a 50-50 agreement. And from what I understand, as we're going through with all the road work we have in the future, as we're replacing sewer lines and copper wires, this is an offer that will be extending to all of the residents, when we go to those neighborhoods at 50-50. Is that true, Ryan? To help with, replacing water lines, was that what?
So
Maybe I'm wrong.
so the lead and copper rule requires us to replace lead lines or, you know, portions of lines that were galvanized and previously connected to lead at our cost, actually. There's some folks that have been interested. Now, that's going to take several years to do that. And there's some folks that are interested in replacing their lines sooner rather than later. And in those cases, if they're not willing to wait for our schedule, where we can, you know, do this as a part of a larger project and get, you know, economies of scale and save some costs. We've been historically kind of splitting that cost with those folks 50-50, which saves us money and doing it at that time, but also gives them the comfort of having it done sooner rather than later. So unless we were to hear an objection from the council that you were really opposed to taking that approach, that's essentially the practice that the city's had for some time. Yep. And if I could just clarify, Mayor, too, just so really good explanation from Councilmember Gardner on the water service line. The other piece of the agreement is the 8-inch water main stub for future development. That is as part of the agreement being covered by Mr. Rodriguez 100%. So we're not participating in that cost, but we are helping and saving him some dollars by including that as part of the overall Maple Street project, because we're already going to be digging into the ground and it makes sense to do it at the same time.
Thank you.
Okay. It's a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Stan.
Yes.
Motion carries. That wraps up new business, which takes us to the second public comment period. Anyone can come to the podium. You have up to 3 minutes. Just begin with stating your name.
I'm short, Jan Cohen, and I live in Douglas on Wiley. I'm here tonight. Honestly, I'm sorry, Jan Cohen. I'm here tonight really to put the council respectfully on notice because of some events that occurred on October 3rd with Councilman Muncy. I was chalking on the corner here outside the town hall. And our theme for our protests and all of our chalking events that weekend was no troops in our city. I don't think I need to go into a lot of explanation for why we would have such a theme since troops are invading our cities all over the country. One of the blocks of squares, I actually put no soldiers or soldiers don't belong in our neighborhoods. Obviously, soldiers is not veterans, it's people with guns doing things to our citizens. In any case, I didn't know who Mr. Muncy was. I'd never met him before. I think we were Facebook friends for maybe some years, but I'm friends with a lot of people that I never met because, you know, that's how we are here. In any case, he came up to me and told me that I was disgusting and that my actions were shameful and that he wanted me to stop immediately. I thought he was an angry passerby, which we don't have very often. So I'm in de-escalation mode and I'm just listening. And he's raising his voice. He's getting louder and louder. And he asked me if I could hear him. And I said, of course I can hear. I'm not deaf. And he said, I want you to stop. I want you to stop right now. And I said, I'm not going to. He said, this is not legal. You are not allowed to do this. And I said, well, the First Amendment, the Saugatuck Council, Ryan and the attorney for the council disagree with you. He walked over in front of the doors of the town hall and he was still yelling at me. I couldn't really hear everything he was saying. I could hear him yelling, but he started yelling that he was Gregory Muncy, the councilman on the Saugatuck Council. And I didn't know that. It took me by surprise. And so I continued to do what I was doing. I tried to give him the respect to listen to him without really making a lot of comments. He also yelled at me that I destroyed the War Memorial in Douglas, which took me by surprise. So eventually he went down the road a little bit and he was talking to people that he might have known, but they didn't, I don't believe he knew all of them, but a couple of them came over to me and said that he asked me if I knew the guy down there and said that he was bad-mouthing me. And they said, what are you doing here? And they looked and they said, do you mind if I help? I said, not at all. I have plenty of chalk. So they got down and chalked with me. In fact, that night there were about 14 different people that got down and chalked with us that we had no idea who they were. But that's not atypical.
Thank you. Gregory, this is time for public comment and you can make responses in your council.
And by the way, I have all of his posts and everything. I screenshotted them all before he went in and changed them.
Others wish to speak?
Hi, I'm Judith Schneider, 207 South Maple in the township. However, I am in Saugatuck all the time. I spend my money here. I have two things to say before I mention this. One, everyone should attend one of these meetings on a regular basis to find out how much hard work you guys put in. Secondly, forgot the other thing.
I do that.
I'm 79, I've lost it. I just recently got in my Facebook post something from a friend in Chicago describing how ICE had invaded their neighborhood, a regular middle-class neighborhood, throwing a person who worked for the local TV station on the ground, handcuffing her, throwing her in a car, setting themselves up outside of the school and the daycare to try and grab people. Now, this isn't happening here. We're in this lovely little bubble. The people I have talked to who work in some of the businesses have had a remarkably good year. So maybe it's the 1% is coming here, I don't know. But the thing is, this is happening in our country. Chalking is a very small thing. You're not going to see me chalking because you need a crane to get me up off the ground. On the other hand, it is free speech. All of us here have paid taxes for those sidewalks. They are public sidewalks. And so therefore, we should be able to practice our constitutional rights of free speech on the sidewalks. If they are indeed something is offensive, then that is something different. But we have to fight for every small little thing. Yeah, first it's going to be chalking. Then maybe they'll decide I can't write my letters to the editor. And then maybe they'll decide, I can't vote on this, or I can't vote on that. These things snowball. And so I would like to fight for every small right that we have so that we can keep them. Thank you.
Thank you. Jude.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Jerry Walsh from Douglas, and I come here to speak as a protester for freedom of speech also. I don't know everyone on this council, but I am friend, neighbor, and client. I bought my house from Laura Durham at Mill Pond. I eat at your restaurants, purchase at your shops. I buy flowers from Gregory at Back to the Fuchsia. I'm certainly not your enemy. I'd like to paint a picture of myself as a local. I've been coming here since still a baby in my pregnant mom's tummy in 1947. That was the year my great uncle finished building his little log cabin resort on Gosshorn Lake. This is not a case of right Republican or left liberal. Free speech affects us all equally. I happen to be a liberal Democrat, but was raised in a divided extended family, Republican self-made businessmen and Democratic union men. I learned to navigate between the two, but both sides were associated with the military. They fought in the American Revolution, for the Union in the Civil War, and World War II, all for our freedom of speech. My father suffered greatly in World War II in the South Pacific. He was a lifelong staunch Catholic conservative Republican, but for the first time in his life, he would not vote Republican for Trump. We disagreed on some things, but he respected my right to protest for free speech. In the 1960s, before all the motorcycle gangs in Saugatuck were here, it was a wonderful place for people at my time to have fun in the summertime. Young people came from all over. I met my college sweetheart at a dance here in Saugatuck. We became lavaliered or pre-engaged. He played basketball for West Point. At a prom or homecoming, one of the two, I stayed overnight on the campus at the home of the head commander of West Point. We sat with his family at dinner, debating the war in Vietnam. This was the military head of the Army Military Academy. We had different viewpoints, but he encouraged me and respected my right to protest. The 800 generals and admirals that Hegseth recently summoned together did not applaud for Trump. They sat there stoically listening only because they had to. But now they are speaking out through the retired commanders, warning us that we are losing our country, and this is the time to wake up and protest. I want to honor them and heed their warnings to protest as I can as a civilian, whether that be bridge walking or chalking. As a realtor for 30 years, I lost many lucrative commissions because I stood up for what was the right of the common good of the people of my community. I just ask you, let us stand up for the freedom of speech for all of us.
Thank you. Others wish to speak?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lamp, and I'm a member of the Good Trouble Indivisible. Jan Cohen founded that. I'd started out with the Indivisibles group, and they said that if you wanted to protest, go with Jan. So I'm with Jan now. And I think kind of what Jan was concerned about expressing and ran out of time was that she felt that that Mr. Muncy used his council member status to try to silence her when she was chalking the walks outside of the city hall by indicating that he was a council member and ordering her to stop. And the other thing that was concerning to her is that this whole thing went on to Facebook, and that Councilmember Muncy, she felt, had used his status on Facebook as well to say things about indicating that she had allegedly done something to a Veterans War Memorial, which she already described was really just about bringing troops into our neighborhoods where they don't belong. Our veterans belong here, our soldiers belong here, but troops don't belong in American cities coming after American individuals, which is what she was expressing. and that had gone onto Facebook, and he had mentioned that he would be bringing that up at the council to take care of that or something to that effect. But again, it was the invocation of his councilman status outside when she was expressing her speech, and then later on Facebook, and that he was saying bad things about her as a councilman, using that status that sort of elevates him and pushes her down. So thank you for your time and thank you for your hard work. It was a pleasure to sit here and watch how hard all of you work and deliberate all of the things you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else in the room? Anyone online wish to speak? All right, that will close public comments. We are now scheduled to go into closed session, so if I can get a motion to go into closed session.
Yeah, maybe I could, Mayor, just kind of give you I'm just gonna compile a citation here to make sure that,
Yeah, and I think your email had that in it.
yeah, so this would be, going into closed session in accordance with MCL 15.268D to consider the purchase or lease of real property. So we would want you to indicate that in a motion.
Just have to bring that up if I can find it. Let me find the email. I had it up.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find it.
My computer's trying to recognize me.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to go into closed session in accordance with MCL 15.268D to consider the purchase or lease of real property.
Second. It is a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
All right. With that, we ask folks to leave. Are we open?
Yes.
Okay, we are back into open session. We are at 16 correspondence. We have a correspondence from the ODC network and from the group of individuals writing to us about the veteran who's in the park, which takes us to council comments. Chris, why don't we begin with you?
Okay, obviously, we've got two complex and emotional issues that have come to us, the homelessness and freedom of speech. And I would have to say that I think we were unprepared to deal with either of those. We find ourselves in situations where things did become divisive. I actually took water down and wiped out the no soldiers in our neighborhood because my husband's a Vietnam veteran. I have no problem at all with free speech, none at all. Shout it out on the sidewalks, like our buskers, that whole thing. Where I get into it is with the property, because it's a slippery slope. Once you start chalking, then you can do painting, and then you can do, I don't know, whatever. So I think that's something that we as a council need to, again, have a workshop on. See what our options are. I know that there was the feeling that maybe the ordinance that we have on board right now doesn't, it doesn't serve the purpose. And so I'd like to have us do that, take another look at that. And I think that these kinds of issues, when they come up, we can't kick the can down the road. We need to go in and do something about it. Other than that, great conversations about everything. I'm sorry I missed that the last meeting, our car got stolen in Chicago. So we were in there kind of doing
That's
that. 'Cause
crazy.
we got it back. We got it back.
Wow.
We haven't got it back from the dealership yet. But anyway, it was good conversation about everything tonight, and I appreciate everybody's input.
Russ?
Yeah, thank you. I turned my computer off, so I don't have my notes from the workshop, but we talked about this, the chalking and public property and our ordinance and so forth quite at length on last Wednesday, and I'm 100% proponent of free speech, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that the city has to protect its taxpayer-supported assets, right? Sidewalks, the buildings, streetlights, whatever they may be, have to be protected. And the ordinance talks about defacing and marring, and, you know, we can get in all different kinds of conversations about what those words mean. But I think the city does have an opportunity and should have further discussion about whether we are prepared for these situations when they occur. And I don't think, as I agree with Councilmember Peterson, we weren't quite ready for this. And so that's work that we need to do, is to get ready for these types of situations when they come up. It has nothing to do with free speech at all. It has everything to do with the city and my responsibility as a city council member, elected official, to protect our public's assets, the taxpayer assets.
I'll just go off topic a little bit. We had a really great weekend in Saugatuck between Saugatuck and Douglas with the Oktoberfest going on in downtown Douglas, Flower World. Thank you so much to the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Chili Cook-Off, you know, benefiting people in our community. And then spending the day with the folks from the Outdoor Discovery Center and everyone involved with doing things that help our natural spaces and our waterways, and the people that are rolling up their sleeves and being in front of each other in person. I encourage everyone to get off from social media as much as possible, because I think it's toxic. And I think we would all be so much better off as a community if we did more things one-on-one and with each other in person. And those three things that I mentioned with Oktoberfest and Flower World and the Chili Cook-Off, and just being with people for a couple hours today on walking through our communities and seeing what people are really doing. Just let's do things in person together, and get off from social media. It's toxic. That's it.
Parker?
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to apologize to Ms. Coe. You know, in no way would I ever want to intimidate anybody. And I think my many years of serving this community, folks know that that's not in my persona. It's not my personality. I've only been serving on council for 3 years, and I certainly don't think that that gives me any more status than just being Gregory, that everybody knows already in town, and all the things that I have done for this town, from decorating every year for fall, for starting music in the park with the Business Association and Don Middlebrook, which has been going on for 25 years now, and all the great things that our town likes to do. I've worked with so many different businesses and organizations with different opinions. And I really wish that Ms. Cohen would have been here for our workshop, and she would have really heard what I felt about sidewalk in sidewalk chalk. When we had our Store del Sol, I had a lot of sidewalk chalk out there, and people could write whatever they wanted to. When we had COVID and the businesses were closed, I made Easter eggs all around town. And we had an Easter egg hunt, and folks followed around on social media, had fun with that. And we looked at how we wanted to define the law with our lawyer. And I'm the kind of person that when you do have a conversation with, as we know here on our council and the many organizations that I work with, when we have an organization, when we have a conflict of how we feel, when you sit down and talk to that person about it, you know, you understand, you know, and sometimes you change how you feel. And I do that a lot. I want to apologize to Jan again about how she felt that evening when I was here for about 20 minutes. And the whole time with a couple of friends of mine were here with me the whole time. Their account and my account are contradictory. But I'd never want to intimidate you or your group. I absolutely believe in freedom of speech. If there's anything that I can do to make you feel better about that, I would love to have a conversation with you about that. But would never want to, again, intimidate you, stop you from expressing yourself. I'm not that kind of person. And again, I have different friends and in our community that have known me over the years that can attest to that. So I'm really, really sorry that you feel that way, Jen. I don't want to make you feel that way. I don't think that it's fair that anybody feels intimidated. To say that I said the word stop, that never came out of my mouth. There was one thing that I said to you that evening. There was only one thing I said, but I thought you would laugh at. I thought it was funny. And that was the only thing that I said to you is when you were writing, hands off, our streets. And I said, and my friend Mike was with me, he thought it was funny. I said, well, that's kind of ironic because your hands with the sidewalk on the street, you know, I thought it was funny. And I think, I believe you chuckled a little bit, but I could be wrong about that. But I don't want you to feel that way. I apologize if you felt that way. If you ever want to have any kind of dialogue about if there was anything that I said to you that didn't make you feel good or anything like that, that would be much appreciated. But there was no incident that night. There was no documented incident that night. It was a peaceful evening. I did not stay there the whole time that you were there. I had left, and after I walked by and looked at it, and I have my opinion. Everybody has the right to freedom of speech, and if I think something's ugly, I can say it's ugly. Whether it was scribbling or with black chalk, it wasn't about the words so much as I thought it was kind of ugly, and I can say that. But I never want you to feel intimidated. I'm not that kind of person. And my history here in this town, the people that I know and the people that were with me that night that can attest to me being there the whole time would agree.
Joe?
I want to echo Lauren's comments. It was an awesome weekend here around Sagatuck, and boy, getting off social media, I couldn't agree more. I like the plague, and I wish other people would and just air out their differences one-on-one. Would make the world a better place. But flower world is great, and looking out there right now and seeing it, and I think CBB enough. Sad that Lisa's gonna be retiring, and Ashley is gonna have a tough job filling those big shoes, because they've done so much for our town, and we're all appreciative for all the work they've done. I want to make sure I call out the planning commissioners, David Jurassic, Ryan, Grayson, and especially our staff. I mean, you guys came to that open house, you brought snacks, you stayed late, you cleaned up, you prepped for it. Everybody just put in a lot of work, and it was really great. Everybody had such a positive comment, so make sure you pass along.
Will do. Thank you.
Do that, please. And, yeah, I guess that's what. Thank you all. Great meeting tonight, by the way.
I will echo the comment for the Planning Commission. I've heard great things about the open house and also the survey, which is terrific, and I'm excited to see, dig into that data. In terms of a workshop, we just last week had the workshop on our chalking ordinance, and so left that with the consensus among council to just stick with it where it is. So unless there's a majority of council wanting to revisit that again, it seemed like we were all comfortable just letting it be. And yes, I echo Lauren's comments on getting off social media, talking one-on-one. It's a challenging time to be alive on this planet right now. And I think the more we can open our hearts and minds and have dialogue with folks, especially those with whom we disagree, is a good way to go about that. So with that, if someone would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to.
Who wants to second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say yes.
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 Meeting adjourned.